A. If you think a groomer's work is the sum of tools and set of standards and blank canvases, you are mistaken. Every case is individual, has specific circumstances, and individual animals and the individual person are, as well as person, family, fellow pets enthusiasts, the professional observers. The approach used is different each time because different animals owners may have different reasoning for bringing in their pet, and those reasons aren't always obvious. Some owners are too ambitious and want to see their animals like a copy of their recent champion in the breed, just like those saw on TV. Some are thinking about hairstyling convenience in their home and livestock. Some try to save money with frequent visits to the grooming salons, and some wants their own ideas implemented. For fun or pragmatism, and many of your customers wants to follow veterinary recommendations as closely as possible. It is very hard to predict the owner's desire in every case, but it's yet another incentive to individualize every case. As an artist, the groomer has the right to propose his or her professional recommendations to the client, but always in a professional, uncourteous manner and with knowledge that the owner always has the final say. The range of services that can be provided and the creativity of grooming has to be explained to the owners before beginning of the procedure. The range of cuts you can offer is based on a fairly simple formula. First, the owner wishes and views, then your suggestions, and between the two of you come up with the acceptable medium. The psychology of pet lovers is a subject of future research, but both creative hairstylist and just executive groomer has to keep in mind that the payment and satisfaction depends on the customer's will. The second part of the relationship, the continuous part, is between the groomer and the animal client. Creating the right relationship in your workspace is everything. Never try to save time and energy when you're starting a relationship with a new patient. You have to explain to the new customer that the first visit may be longer than further ones because you have to spend more time on introductions. Some customers may think that longer service means worse service, but they will understand that when you spend more of your work time and his time with an animal, it does not mean that animal will just wait in the service or you will move too slowly. In comfortable condition, it's the best interest of the animal not to be rushed. The following picture is a copy of the story from my experience, but it's a common that it looks like a generalization. Mrs. E comes to our office and her very mated English Cocker Spaniel. It looks like Sammy has not been groomed in for years. "Can you do a short cut for my Sammy?" she asked. "Yes, why not? Sammy has all the ability to become a winner." "How old is he?" "He's 8 years old. Unfortunately, Sammy does not let me brush him on a regular basis, and he does not like going to the grooming salon. Once he was there and then sent him back. That's why I'd like you to finish the job as soon as possible. He hates such places. By the way, may I be present here during the haircut?" Sam spends the entire time during exchange growing at the groomer. "Looks like we got another headache." Mrs. E face isn't promising anything pleasant either. "Of course you may check everything. Mrs. E, you will see Sammy through one-way window. It will take up to 4 hours, maybe a little more for the first time." "It's impossible," Mrs. E blusters. "I want to stay with Sammy next to him, and you have to do your job in half that time. Sammy hates to be in the cage. Sorry, Mrs. E, we cannot change our policy. Especially in this case, it's in Sammy's best interest to do the job without rushing. You know, Sammy is a special, and I'm really dedicated more time to him. In your presence, he will be finicky and more aggressive. He'll try to play on your emotions to get out of the situation. Mrs. E remembers that it's a holiday season and that in that case of scandal, she'll have to find another available appointment in some other place, which is not very easy at this season. Maybe she also remembered that several other groomers refused to take Sammy even for shaving, much less for show cut, and she agreed. I will visit his beauty salon while you groom Sammy, she announced, and I will see. Owner and a slave, Mrs. E, left the shop. Sammy really didn't like to be in cage, but has no choice. In the words of Grooming, took him to the grooming, and while Groomer took him to grooming. How we convinced Sammy to be a good boy, you'll find in another chapter, but we did it. Here we just took notice that Sammy's halted in cage came in useful. Whenever he misbehaved, the short stay in the cage resolved him to good behavior. At the end of the grooming, Sammy felt pretty comfortable in the grooming table, and even cage stopped being as hated as before. When the grooming was over, Sammy got best treats, and at that time Mrs. E appeared in the office in the new haircut and freshly manicured. Is Sammy ready? She asked, stepping over the threshold. Here is your baby, as the groomer brings the dog out. Oh, you're so pretty. Did you behave? Sammy was a rather good boy, the groomer answered. But it still took a long time, she said defensively. Mrs. E, you see, you had a haircut and manicure. That's only head and fingers. Sammy had hair all over his body that's had to be washed, dried, clipped, 4 pairs that has to be pedicured. And I got to take a wild guess and say that you never tried to bite your stylist while they were taking care of your hair. Everybody cracked up with laughter. After the experience, it became tradition. Mrs. E usually made 2 appointments for the same time, one for her beauty salon for her, and the other for our grooming salon for Sammy. Although Sammy does not need 4 hours worth of grooming now, Mrs. E sometimes even asks us to take out time to work slowly so she can get some more shopping done. I'm sure Sammy will be our client forever. If the animal likes coming to your grooming salon and it at least doesn't hate it, you have created a reliable customer and made future visits easier on you and your animal. For this purpose, every groomer has her own secret. Some kept tasty treats for patients. Patients do not forget to ask the owner if there is a restriction because of allergy, weight control, or other reasons which treats the animal favors. Some talk and play with the animal first and start grooming if only after establishment of rapport. Some are strict first and reward the patient with a good behavior with petting and scratching. You shouldn't decide ahead of time which approach to use. Wait until you meet the animal because your choice will depend on its personality. Developing the right relationship with the animal and maintaining its biggest secret in being a successful groomer. On our team, there are a groomer who prefers to sing to animals during grooming. She may not be the greatest singer, but her patients are so intrigued and distracted by the melodies that they start still through the procedure. Some procedures that accompany grooming, while necessary and common, are not particularly pleasant to any animal. Cutting nails, ear cleaning, anal sucks expression. Remember about that and try to divert the dog's attention during those steps. Let the animal know that nothing harmful will come from those actions, and afterwards reward it with a good behavior. Of course, not everybody is so lucky enough to be first to establish the groomer-groomee relationship by the next customer with the new customer. Some animals may come to you after a bad grooming experience. Their previous groomers wasn't particularly gentle, or maybe the owner tries to groom the dog on their own and made some mistakes. In this scenario, you have to either try to establish the new type of relationship with the poor guy, or just find a way to do the job against the patient's will. The most radical method of grooming an aggressive dog and cat is sedation. Sometimes there is no other choice. For 5 years now, we have a client, a standard poodle Armatodon. He's currently about 8 years old and a beautiful poodle on the outside. In his head, though, he is a German Shepherd on military duty. The owner wants to see him in a classic poodle style. I see the poodle almost every day because we live in the same neighborhood, and sometimes he walks alongside my dogs. It's a greatest pleasure when Armatodon is purring about surrounding with dog around clouds of fur. Every time Armatodon comes to the grooming salon, he tries to bite everybody before he is sedated for the procedure. This comes out of about 6 sedations a year. At this rate, he may very well become addicted, but without sedation, there is no way to shave his face. Truly, art demanding sacrifices. Sedation has to be done by a vet, and the grooming of sedation animals has to be done under qualified supervision, because this sedated animal cannot keep its head right while it can be cause damage to the neck, respiratory passages, and spine. A benefit of grooming under sedation is the avoidance of stress, since animals isn't aware of the forcible manipulation. When the animal wakes from the sedation, it will have no unpleasant memories or unwanted actions. If sedation can be avoided, there are several other methods of dealing with aggressive and unruly animal that will keep your personnel out of harm's way. When there is aggressiveness or the animal is even a bit less than extreme, these existent several methods of enforcement grooming and the protection of grooming personnel. Silence tools, muzzles, e-collars, and cover towers will prevent most injuries, but the greatest protection is training staff and individuals and attentive approach. But animals are not the most difficult side of relationship triangle. Groomers, owners, pets. I would say that it's easier to establish an amicable relationship with a pet than with the indisposed owner. Although together with the pet you will have much more chance to solve all the problems with the owner, including the price. Following, you will find the advice that will be useful for grooming young and old, male and female, hyper and depressed, strong and weak animals. Other grooming handbooks are devoted to the grooming indefinite, usually middle-aged animals. In fact, there are 2 distinct life stages that should be taken into account by groomer: puppyhood and old age.